350 dpi, color is white. I have my grid set up. Just really quick review. You just go to View, click Grid, Grid Settings. The width and height are 1.27 centimeters, and that's going to give you the equivalent of 1/2-inch squares. So making that business card was really easy. You just go to our shape tool here, make sure it's on rectangle, choose a color, and if these are 1/2-inch squares, it would be 4 by 7. Now you can see it's not adhering to them, and that is because I did not click snap to the grid here, so don't forget to do that right at the top. And now we will definitely have a 4 by 7 card there. So there it is on the layer, and you can control the opacity if you want it to be lighter. So I'm going to use this little mistake I made here as a good example of using the selection tool. The selection tools are right over here. This first one is the shape selection tool. So you can click on it and then choose your shape. And these are just like the shape color tools. It's basically the same idea. You pick the shape you want, and then you can draw that shape. There it is. And now that area is selected. And whatever it is you want to do, it will only be done in that area. For example, if I go to my brush tool, it will only work in that area. So I can paint over here, but you see it will only paint where it is selected. And if I hit the delete button, it will only delete what is in that selected area, which is what I just did. I hit delete on my keyboard and it's gone. To get out of selection mode, it's Control D. So that's a good one to commit to memory. You could also come up to the select pull down menu and choose deselect, but you can see the keystroke there is Control D, and that's a good one to commit to memory. All right. So that is just the fundamentals of selection. Let's try a little bit more here. I'm going to choose that shape tool again, and I'm going to pick ellipse this time. And on my business card, I'm going to choose this area. There it is. And again, anything I want to do in that area. For example, I could take my eraser tool right here and with its in brush control here, with my eraser brush control, it's on 100% opacity. It's going to erase completely. But if I turn that down to maybe half, you'll see I could, no, maybe even less, do something like this, where I'm just adding some nice stripes that aren't completely white, but you know, they're faded because I'm not erasing 100% here. Now you might think, well, those stripes were a little haphazardly drawn, Mr. Howard. Well then, just as always, you can go up to the top to the status bar and choose one of your snaps. So how about these parallel lines here? Choose that guy. And now my haphazard lines aren't quite so haphazard. There you go. And then when you're done, Control D. So I've created a nice little area here that I could use to maybe highlight my name or something. So many options. You can also use the selection to fill. So, for example, I could just make an area here and then come to my fill tool and pick a different color and just drop it in that area. There it is. So pretty cool. The next tool for selection right beneath that is the, undo that stuff, is the lasso shape tool. So the lasso shape tool allows you to create your own shape by just drawing it out. There it is. So it's sort of a custom shape selection tool, but it works the exact same way. I can get my bucket and fill in that area. I can get my eraser and erase in that area, and it's just going to apply to that area. Whatever I do, it's just going to apply to that area. I can hit the delete button and delete in that area. So works just like the selection shape tool. It's basically you're just making your own shape. All right. I'm going to skip this one in the middle. I'm going to save that for a minute. The selection tools beneath here, this one with the pencil and the one with the eraser, are basically adding and subtracting from your selection. So I'm going to back it up. Let's say I have this shape that I made, but I realized after I drew the shape that I didn't get quite everything I wanted. I need to adjust my shape a little bit. I can come over to the pencil tool here and add to my selection. You can see maybe I'm rounding this out, making that just a little nicer there. Or I could just altogether enlarge something. I could just say, you know what, this needs to be more like that. And fill that in. And so the red is becoming my new selection. And then when I go to my shape tool, my lasso tool, you see I clicked back on that. I have a new selection, the enlarged selection. There it is, that I can then hit delete and or do anything to. The eraser works the same way. If you click on the eraser, you can deselect. You can say, you know, actually I need a little gouge in here. I want there to be some sort of a, I don't know. And you could make this much smaller if you wanted to make that a sharper point. And do the same thing over here. So I am subtracting from my selection with the eraser, all right? And then when I go back to my lasso tool, if I click back on it, you can see that area is no longer selected. And then I could do anything I wanted with it. I could take the paint bucket and fill that in, and it would just fill that area. Or whatever. Take my brush tool and color it in with some sort of color. And again, it's only affecting that area. Don't have to worry about it painting outside of my selection. So there you go. So that is how those work. The first two are the general selections, and you can use a simple shape or you can use a custom shape that you draw. And then the two below are adding and subtracting from your selection using whatever brush you have chosen here. And the last selection tool is definitely the most powerful, and that is the one in the middle here. This guy, this magic wand, allows you to select by color. So although everything here is on the same layer, I could simply choose this purplish color by just clicking on it. Bam. Or I can hit Control D and just choose the pink by just clicking on it. Bam. There it is. And with it selected, I can do anything to it. I can say, you know what? I don't like it being pink anymore. I'm going to take my green color and use my paint bucket and just click on it. Voila. Now it's green. Or change my mind. Anything I want. Use the orange. Same thing. Boom. Now it's orange. So you can select by color, and it's just really powerful. I'm going to back up, get back to my, whoop, too far back. Get my, that's fun. There we go. All right. The next thing I want to show you is how to use selection with type. So I'm going to make another layer here just to demonstrate. And on this layer, I'm going to move this layer behind this pink one. And on this layer, I'm going to create a just a different color square, the same size, and go to my shape tool and choose, oh, let's say the blue. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. Just make another card right behind it. There it is. Okay. So I have the pink one on top and the blue one on the bottom. I'm going to make another layer. And on this layer, I am going to type out my name. I'm going to go to my type tool, click approximately right here in the middle, and type out my name. Maybe choose a slightly heavier font. Ooh, that's a good one. And of course, enlarge it so it looks a little bigger for you. That's a little too big. Looking good there. I might hit the return button on this. There we go. And make it larger that way. I don't know how I did that. Oh, I clicked to rotate here. Like, I didn't mean to click rotate. That's actually kind of fun. I think I'm going to leave it rotated. And maybe just the next size up. What does 36 look like? There we go. Okay. So I'm good with my text. I'm happy with it. And if you are happy with it, you hit OK. And I am going to move it a little bit just to get it centered here. There we go. Okay. So now for the show. The show is to use the magic wand, clicking on the magic wand, and I'm going to select my name. So look at that. And I can just keep clicking as I go along here. You have to hold the shift key So you might want to make note of that. So you're holding the Shift key as you add to your selection. And you can see it's got a little plus sign underneath the magic wand. And it's selecting by color. So now I have this selection created. And I can do anything I want with it. I can fill it in with a different color. But what I'm going to do is use it to delete. So I'm going to click this pink layer right here, and I'm going to delete my name from that layer. So I'm just going to hit the delete button. There it is. And then hit Control D. I'm going to turn off my my name there. And let's try this again. Hit the delete button. There it is. And now what it has done is make this layer right here. Look, I can turn that off. I deleted that from this layer. So I can put any color I want behind there. Anything. I can put anything behind there. It's not there. So I could, for example, make this green shape and then move that behind it. And sorry, let me put that on its own layer. And there you go, just to prove to you that it actually has been deleted from that layer. So not that you would want to do deletion, but the point I am making is that you can basically create a text selection by typing out the text in a color that you don't have any, it's not behind it, and then using the magic wand to select each letter holding the Shift key. And once you have that selection, you can do anything you want to it. So one thing you can do with a selection is add a gradient. And that's the last thing I'm going to talk about. So right now I've got my name selected. And I'm going to put a gradient into that selection. So let's see if this works. Click on the gradient tool and get my colors right. I want to choose my foreground color as green and my background color as blue. Whoops, I had it. There we go. And now I will do this gradient line across, and there you go. So I've got a cool gradient forming in my name. So let's talk more generally about gradients. I'm going to turn, with no selection, if you click on the gradient tool, what it does is it fills the entire artboard with a gradient, and it goes from the color you have in front to the color you have in back here up on your in the color panel. And I'll just, with the gradient tool selected, use my mouse to click and drag the line I want it to follow. And there it is. So get this little thing off here. So the line that you make with the mouse is the transition area. So if I just make a little line, look at this, just a 1-inch line here, you can see the transition between the two colors is very small. It transitions over that 1 inch. I can do it, and I can do it anywhere. I can say I want it to transition over here, or I want it to transition over here. And you can do it at any angle. You can say I want it to transition this away, or this away. So you are creating the length of transition. You could just do what I just did, just do a single dot essentially, and there's no transition. It just goes from one to the other. You can do a long transition to get a really gentle fade. Up in the status bar, you have the ability to choose foreground, background, which is the default here. It goes from the foreground color to the background color. You can reverse those. You can also choose foreground transparent and transparent foreground. So look at that. It's going to go from the blue to transparent to nothing. How about this? So whatever you have beneath it is going to show through. You can see my business card is still showing through because I have it going from the blue to nothing. You can also do circular shapes. So up on that status bar, you can say, I want it to be circular rather than across like that. And so whatever you click and drag, you are creating the size of the object as it transitions from the foreground color to nothing. So there's a fun way to make blending circles. And if you change that from foreground to transparent back to foreground background, you'll get this kind of effect. And the longer you make that radius, the more gentle it's going to transition. So if you make a very short one, you get a little dot. And again, if you make a long one, you get this big thing like that. And you could choose a corner if you just want, for example, if you just want a portion of it to be done. You could do each corner if you did it on different layers and you were using transparent. For example, if I went to foreground transparent and just did each corner like this, you could have fun doing something like that. So that is how you do it on your artboard. All of these gradients I've done so far have been applied to the entire artboard. How do you get it to apply to a specific area, like my name, or like your business card? Well, you have to make the selection. So if you go to rectangle selection and snap to grid, you can choose a business card sized area, just like that. There it is. And now you can do your gradient within that. So I can pick the gradient tool, and then slide from one corner to the other. There you go. You get that gradient. And so that is fading from foreground to transparent. I could change that to foreground to background, and then we'll get the blue to the green. There it is. Let me put that back on linear. Get something like that. So that's a really fun thing to do for your business card. If you want to change your background color, You can do that. And here's what the circular would look like if you just did something kind of in the center like that, or maybe make it a little bigger. I guess you can't move it after the fact, just redo it. There you go. So much you can do. The gradient tool is a lot of fun. I like applying it to the name like that. And again, that was just by having the name selected and then dragging through it. Or the other thing you could do would be to simply move that layer that you cut your name out of and put it on top of something that you had already created. And then that shows through. So you can make the gradient in the name with the name selected, or you can just cut the name out by hitting the delete key on your keyboard once it's selected, and then just putting whatever color or gradient you want behind it. Are there any questions?